Okay, unique voice acting. Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, but probably not World of Tanks as you've seen it, and that's because this is Wargaming's 2017 Halloween Fun Mode, and there's so many cool features to highlight that I'm going to try and let you know everything about this in this video. Now, immediately, you might be noticing the most important feature, I would say, about this whole fun mode, and that is 2 turrets. Do you see 2 reticles on the screen? That's right, I just whizzed the butt of my tank round to be able to bear my secondary gun down upon my Stein opponent there. And it's absolutely fantastic. I feel like it's been implemented in a pretty cool way. Will this be something that we'll be seeing inside the regular game mode in the future? Well, that would be ridiculously exciting if that was the case. So the holiday fun mode, I believe it's going to be available until November the 9th, but I'm not 100% certain on that. So the next 10 days or so, I guess, you're going to have to be able to enjoy 2 new tanks that everybody has in their garage now if you do log into the game, at least on PC. Now, what are the 2 tanks? Well, one's called Franken and one's called Stein. Oh dear. I'm playing Stein right now, but I'm shooting at Franken. So the differences between the vehicles, Stein, what do you think? When you think about Stein, it means rock in German, right? So the Stein is the more tanky of the 2 vehicles, but funnily enough, for something that's named after a rock, it is also faster than Franken, so you've got to watch out for that. Now, its guns, not nearly as good as Franken. Hopefully we're going to be able to take him out here. Come on, load the secondary gun, blow him apart. There you go. Great. Shut down the Franken. I will be showing you some Franken in the PvP game mode. And that's the next thing I want to highlight. At the moment, I'm fighting against bots. These are not players. If these were players, then I don't know. Sometimes when you play World of Tanks, you do feel like you're playing against bots. But no, these truly are bots. These are computer-controlled opponents with lots of very unique names that you can check out. One's called, is that Minotaur? Sphinx? Manticore? Typhoon? I like it, okay. Wargaming seems to have put quite a lot of detail into this game mode. I'm sure that a lot of you out there be thinking, well, why aren't you just focusing more on the regular game mode? But no, I think like fun game modes like this that are only here for a couple of weeks are a nice breath of fresh air for the game, right? So, Stein, Franken, the 2 new vehicles, but there are also 2 different game modes within this fun event that Wargaming are putting on. What you're seeing here is PvE. Now there will be some PvP as well, I'll be highlighting that in a second. So what is the goal of this PvE game mode? Well, you work together with a bunch of allies. Looks like that there are 7 tanks on each team. I'm not sure if it can go higher than that or if it was just throwing us into the matchmaker as it was. And your goal is to try and take out all of the bots. And one thing you might notice is that when the bots die, they actually drop health packs to be able to heal your allies. And when you drive over them, you heal not only yourself for 350, but everybody on your team for 350 as well. Now, I'm deciding not to pick up that health pack. I'm thinking it might be useful to use it later. It's always nice to have a quick look around to see how much health everybody's on. Well, I guess that guy needs a bit of a heal, but the other 3 vehicles that are around don't really need the heal right now. So that's my first tip to you guys, is that you might want to save the health packs. Don't just drive over them unless it's completely necessary, because you can save them for later. And that's because you need all of the hit points that you can get, because ladies and gentlemen, let me show you the boss of this PvE game mode. It is Leviathan. Oh my word. This is the biggest tank that's ever been in World of Tanks. This reminds me of all those years ago where Wargaming were thinking of putting in, what was it? Was it the Rate Land Cruiser, that German crazy, I don't even know what you want to call it, mobile bunker that they... Probably some crazy Germans were planning in World War II, but never came into fruition. Now, I was always hoping that that would enter the game, but I'm pretty happy that Leviathan is here. So, how do you deal with Leviathan? Well, immediately you might notice that Leviathan has some glowing bits on its tank, and whenever you're playing against bosses in video games, you always shoot the glowing bits, right guys? And so that's what you've got to focus on. So even if you're playing in Stein, you can still do a hell of a lot of damage to Leviathan. You just need to get your vehicle side on and try and hit the flat bit on the side. Now, your primary gun has much better penetration than your secondary gun. I believe the primary penetration here is 250, and the secondary penetration is 215. So that can actually make it quite tricky to be able to penetrate with your secondary armament on side Stein. Now, you might notice is that I had a big warning on the screen there telling me the main gun is targeting you. But unfortunately, we're seeing that our team isn't doing very well. We've got 7 kills, they've got 4 kills between them. Now we're trying to focus on Leviathan at the end, and because I am playing in the tank Stein, I thought I might as well try and take some of the focus away from my team, and seeing how I'm sitting on all of my hit points. Now you can actually duck behind cover between Leviathan's reloads, which is what I'm trying to do here, and then you want to pop out and burst in, and Stein is actually pretty fun because while its main armament isn't very high on DPM, it's kind of reliable with the aim time and the accuracy. And the rear gun on this tank is actually an autoloader. I think it's like a 47mm autoloader. No, a 35mm autoloader. But this 35mm autoloader does 125 damage with 215 penetration. It has 4 rounds in the magazine, meaning that you will do 500 damage if you manage to penetrate all of them. And let me tell you, the actual DPM of the rear turret on Stein is twice that of the primary turret. And so when we get into the PvP game mode in just a second, it's my #1 tip to you is that you have to learn to use that secondary turret as well. If you don't, then you're gonna just be absolutely dominated by players who will. And that's the key difference between, shall we say, the good players and the great players inside this fun holiday game mode, is the ones that can use their secondary turrets. Now, we'll see that Leviathan is actually making his way towards, I guess, the goal for Leviathan to reach, which is the gates. I guess the gates to end the portal to the world of tanks afterlife. I don't know. Anyway, Leviathan's trying to get there, and you've got to try and destroy him before he does so. But unfortunately for us, a lot of our players died very early on. And oh my word, I just realized, when you're watching the replays and Leviathan gets enraged, that is absolute awful sound effects. So we're not going to be watching this anymore. Spoilers, I tried to make my way around the corner. I tried to try and sneak in and get the health pack, but Leviathan turns his main gun towards me and destroys me outright. But while we're here, let me highlight one of my favorite things to do to Leviathan. He's actually got a really weak rear lower plate, and what you can do is get up underneath his gun. He's got no guns at the back of his vehicle, and so when I play Stein, I just follow Leviathan and I turn my tank to the side and put my secondaries up into his lower plate, easily able to penetrate. And it's how I've had some of my highest damage games, and I've been doing almost half the damage to Leviathan even though there are 7 players on my team. However, maybe PvE is not your thing at all. You couldn't be less interested in playing against a load of bots with a bunch of players on your team. So maybe the PvP will be your more thing. And there's a 15 versus 15 game mode, just like your regular World of Tanks, apart from you're driving in Franken, or you can play Stein if you want to. Now, Franken is more of the kind of tank destroyer compared to Stein, which is more of the heavy tank. It's a bit slower, it's got much weaker armor, 20mm worse pretty much all over the vehicle, and its side armor is especially awful. But you do have a rear-mounted turret, and you've got a rear-mounted primary turret, I should say, and a front-mounted secondary turret, which is able to traverse a lot more. So that means that you don't have to expose nearly as much of your side armor when you're engaging your opponents with Franken. And one of the best things about Franken is that its main armament does 420 average damage, and it has 285mm of penetration. And also the secondary turret on this tank and the primary turret have way more DPM than Stein does. And so you can basically trade much more effectively using Franken than you can with Stein, and not having to turn the whole of the side of your vehicle on is also an advantage. Now, as I highlighted when we were looking at the PvE game mode, the big difference between the players that do well and the players that don't are the ones that use their secondary turrets. But at this kind of range, you can't really be using your secondary turret that well. Come on, 420, wow, 454, decent roll there. I try and reverse to get my secondary shot on him. Will the secondary manage to go in? It actually bounces. Come on, will the secondary go in? No, not quite. The secondary penetration is not nearly as good as the primary. It's 225 instead of 285. So if you don't want to use that fancy autoloader and kind of like swing the back of your tank round like Stein did there, do you see? He swung the side of his vehicle round to be able to use his secondaries, and so that allowed everybody to easily penetrate him. Don't fall for that. Sometimes in Stein you don't want to give the side of your vehicle to your opponents, even if you do feel that you want to use your secondaries. Ah, good night, Stein. There we go, our first kill of the game. Now we're going to be advancing along, and this 420 alpha damage just feels so much more meaty than Stein's. Now, one thing that's really interesting is, do you see the double reticles on the screen here? And do you see how one of them was getting blocked by this dead tank in front of us? And it's absolutely bizarre to be using these two turrets. I really hope that Wargaming do think about incorporating this in a way in some kind of funky vehicle. I've heard rumors of some kind of ST2 that might use some kind of double turreted system. Or maybe there's even a premium vehicle at tier 3, I believe, called the MTLS or something like that. Completely overpowered vehicle that nobody has access to. I don't believe Wargaming have ever sold, but sometimes you can use it on a press account when you're at events. And that has a double turret. It's be interesting to see how Wargaming use that. So I'm trying to put one through the cheeks of Franken there. The cheeks of this tank aren't that good. Oh, it's just pretty cool to have that secondary turret and see that it's much faster traverse speed than the primary turret. So you can go in. And also one thing I'd like to highlight that you're not going to see me do in this gameplay is that, oh, I'm actually going to use my fire extinguisher there. Well, you're going to see me use my fire extinguisher. One thing I'd like to highlight is that ramming is quite effective in this game mode. And especially when you're playing against the bots, don't be afraid to ram them to finish off their remaining hit points. Might save you a few hit points actually if you're stuck reloading. And remember, as soon as you ram the bot, then you're going to be able to get all of your hit points back, or at least 350 when you do pick up the health pack anyway. So now I'm going to show you some PvP with Stein. We can see we miss our primary turret there, but we swing the back of our tank round. And look at that, a huge amount of damage to the side of Franken. And so that means when we reload our primary, we're easily going to be able to shut them down. Oh, darn it. What? That guy behind me stole the kill, and I think he went blue as well. I'm not sure if there's team damage inside the PvP game mode. I think there might be. They've definitely disabled it inside the PvE game mode. So now we're going to shoot the side. Well, we managed to only penetrate a single one of our secondaries there. And immediately you'll see that we turn the front of our turret towards the Franken. We actually bounce a lot of his shells there. When you're angling like this in Stein, it's probably one of the hardest things to penetrate inside this fun game mode. Well, it's not like there's that much variety, is there? There's two vehicles to choose from. One of them's got 120 millimeters, or what shall I say, on the side, and one of them's got 100. So Stein is actually remarkably good at reverse side scraping. You can come round and easily put shots through the side of Franken with its 100 millimeters of side armor. We heard Franken fire there. Can we come around the corner to finish this guy off? Oh no, we don't manage to track him. We don't manage to finish him off. And I don't really want to get shot here by Franken. Is he going to try and reverse out? What's his plan going to be? Well, I'm just going to wait till I'm no longer spotted, and then I'm going to just try and go on a flanking maneuver. So what do you guys think of this map? I mean, Wargaming seems to have done a good job of making Kharkiv look truly hellish, and there you go, goodbye Franken. And there's actually quite a funny moment at the end of the game here. Remember what I was saying about ramming your opponents? Well, let's just take a look to see what happens here when there's a Stein that's kind of sitting below us. That Franken looks like he wants to go for it. Did he just set him on fire by ramming him? Or do you think he fired a shell in just before? And our secondaries will finish off the remaining Stein on the enemy team. So while the novelty of having this rear-mounted turret is truly exciting at first, after about 5 games or so, you might be getting a little bit bored of the gameplay. But there are a series of rewards to keep you hooked. So as we can see here, inside the missions tab, there's a whole series of unique missions that you can complete in both Stein and also Franken in both the PvE and the PvP game mode. And you're going to get these sarcophagus rewards. And sometimes you can get really good stuff out of these sarcophagus. So let's take a look at Halloween reward number 1. We're going to get some secret sign tokens as well. Let's go to the reward, and oh, there's a flashy animation. There's some sound effects as well. We open it up. What are we going to get? 50,000 credits. You know, that's not too bad. And about 1,500 credits from the manual fire extinguisher. Not too bad. Oh, we get another one. This time we get a premium Polish consumable, an enhanced Leaf Springs Class 2. I don't think I've ever used those before. That'll be going to the sales. And also 75,000 credits. Not too bad. But the best rewards are inside the weekly once-only completion sarcophaguses, which I'm going to be showing you now. Oh, come on. I love loot boxes, especially when I don't have to pay for them. What's it going to be? What? That's not what we wanted. Oh, okay. That's what we wanted. There we go. 250,000 credits, 5 premium fire extinguishers, a gun rammer, which would cost us 200,000 credits if we were to buy it when it's not on discount. And the best thing I believe inside this is that we've actually got 3 times 2-hour plus 50% credit boosters. Now, if you use that when you're running a premium account or you're running a tier 8 premium tank, that's probably going to make you about 500,000 credits each. So that is not bad, and it's totally worth investing the time to be able to pick that bonus up. And so there you have it. That is Wargaming's 2017 Halloween edition to World of Tanks. Now, has it been a trick or a treat? Well, personally, I think it's actually a treat. I've been really enjoying it. It's just fun to go and blast a few vehicles, and the idea of having this gigantic Leviathan that you have to work together to take out has been pretty cool. And also, I truly hope that this is a test bed for Wargaming to demonstrate multi-turreted tanks, and maybe we might see a vehicle or two of them coming into the random queue in the foreseeable future. But again, no, this is not a confirmation. It's just something that I'd like to see. All of that kind of unique variety in World of Tanks, adding in some different gameplay, a lot like we saw with the Swedish tank destroyers and the auto-loading heavies that came into the game, are my favorite aspects to World of Tanks. But I'm really interested to know what you lovely ladies and gentlemen out there are thinking as well. Would you like to see multi-turreted tanks go into World of Tanks if they were even remotely historical? And what do you think about the fun mode in general? Have you enjoyed it, or do you think it's a big waste of time? And hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. And if you're watching this video as it's released on Sunday, it's time for another World of Tanks Tech Tree Showcase on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And this week, I want to continue looking at the massively revamped British tech trees. Last week we looked at the turreted tank destroyers. This week we're going to be looking at the British heavies as I work my way up towards the Super Conqueror. And if you've never been to one of my tech tree showcases before, they're miniature tank reviews starting from tier 1 and working my way up towards tier 10. So you can see if it's a line that's maybe worth grinding, or if you've got the vehicles already, pick up a few tips and tricks along the way. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing as many of you as possible right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.